And now, for more on that sensational story that's rocking Israel, Ilana Dayan is one of Israel's leading journalists, as I just said. She's the anchor of the investigative news program Uvda, which is Hebrew for fact. She's the reporter who broke the story that we were just talking about, the story that apparently 2 years ago, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered his military to prepare for an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. Dayan's story documents how the army chief and the head of Mossad, the Israeli intelligence, both refused to comply. Let me just say that the Iranian government has responded to that very program, saying in a letter to the Security Council, the Islamic Republic of Iran expresses its strong protest and condemnation of such a provocative, unwarranted and irresponsible statement by the Israeli regime's prime minister. I wish to reiterate that the Islamic Republic of Iran has never had any intention of any attack on any other nation. Ilana, thank you so much for joining me. You've heard the whole premise. You heard what your deputy foreign minister has responded about this. He wouldn't confirm or deny. He said that there was no order from the prime minister. Do you believe that the prime minister had ordered a strike, or do you believe that this was part of the preparations and the psychological pressure to ratchet the pressure up on Iran?
I'll tell you the facts as I know them from many, many talks that I had, also from people who were in the room in this specific dramatic meeting of the G7, the 7 senior ministers of our government. It happened in the course of 2010, and all of a sudden, just when they are at the door, the chief of staff, then Gabi Ashkenazi, and the head of Mossad, Meir Dagan, are given an order by the Prime Minister Netanyahu to step into a pre-attack alert and be ready to strike in Iran. This is what happened. This is as close, I believe, as Israel has ever gotten to a strike in Iran. And more importantly than that, this was, I guess, the most dramatic rift between the military establishment and the political establishment, in which you find really a fascinating dispute between these two sides, when you have on the one side Prime Minister Netanyahu with a deep conviction, very coherent worldview in this respect. You have Ehud Barak, who is Mr. Security, and on the other hand you have the Chief of Staff and the head of Mossad, who very courageously set off the alarms and say, guys, this is not the right thing to do now, and if we step into this pre-attack alert, this is noisy, this can lock us into war.
So do you believe that the temperature for a military strike against Iran has gone up or down in Israel, especially since the US election of Barack Obama and not Mitt Romney?
It's interesting. I was listening to Deputy Minister Ayalon just a couple of minutes ago, and it was interesting the way he put it. He said Obama has done for us much more than we could ever expect. He said that he thinks Israel and the US are now on the same page, not only in terms of the intelligence understanding of what's happening, but in terms of what should be done. That was not the case of the interview I had with Prime Minister Netanyahu just last Friday, in which he very, very strongly said, if the US doesn't do it, we'll have to do it ourselves. This is Netanyahu's agenda, and the interesting thing that we are about to be seeing now is what happens with the just newly re-elected President Obama. And in my view, the most important, really the most important thing is whether these two guys, these two gentlemen, will be able to create this strategic intimacy, as someone put it to me, that can really be the only way to create innovative options and to abort dangerous ones.
So you've also said that, look, this discussion continues. You understand where Prime Minister Netanyahu is coming from. You also understand where the opposition, those who don't agree with this kind of strategic direction towards Iran. So are we likely to see this conversation continue in Israel?
No doubt about it. I mean, we have this postponed deadline until the spring of 2013. But again, as far as Netanyahu is concerned, this leader, this prime minister, came to the table with a very coherent, a very well-established, I have to tell you, a very, very respected worldview, a historic conviction that he should get rid of the Iranian nuclear threat. When you hear Mr. Netanyahu, you understand that it is something which is really very deeply embedded in his psyche, in his worldview. And on the other hand, when you speak about opposition, it's not only the brass that really, unexpectedly and unprecedentedly holds its horses back, it's also the intellectuals. You have writer David Grossman, the brilliant writer, Israeli writer, perhaps one of the most famous one, writing an article a couple of months ago in the Haaretz newspaper in which in which he said something that I think is very interesting and very important to bring into account when you think about this Israeli dilemma, the bomb or the bombing. And he said that we might be locked into our most ancient Jewish fears of annihilation, of destruction, of death, of murder, of somebody wanting for thousands of years to wipe us from the face of the earth. And he was trying to claim that Netanyahu is playing upon those fears and is really touching upon those fears. Netanyahu, on the other hand, will tell you these are true and genuine fears. Iran is running for the bomb. It has already almost 200 kilograms of 20% enriched uranium. We might not know when they run for the last stretch. So it's an interesting dilemma. It's an important dilemma. And the way I see it as a journalist, it's a fascinating dilemma because you have an unprecedented division of the players, of the characters on the field.
Ilana Dayan, it was a great program, and it's always fascinating to talk to you.